Welcome to 2CentsFC. I'm your host, Amobi Okugo. Each week, we'll be discussing topics from around the soccer world, and I'll be giving my thoughts from the perspective of a pro soccer player. We got my good friend, El, and we got a special guest for you, Rob Bouw from FITLIGHT. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. A pleasure to have you, and we're excited to learn all about you.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show. Congratulations on your 10th episode milestone, if I can say that. I'm Rob. I'm from the Netherlands, 39 years old, living and working in the United States, Miami, Florida. I'm the director of sales for FITLIGHT USA. We have a company that produces training equipment for all types of sports, for healthcare, and for tactical purposes. And our system is being used to train reaction time. It's sensory-based, it's lights and a tablet to train your reaction time, your speed, your agility, and your cognitive functions.
No, that's amazing. So tell us about, how you got involved in soccer and how are you able to mesh the two with FITLIGHT?
Well, I'm from the Netherlands. I grew up watching soccer, obviously, from the south, from Eindhoven, where PSV obviously is the big team. It's not my team. I'm a big fan of Feyenoord Rotterdam. I had season tickets for 19 years. Basically, 2 weeks before I moved to the US, they became champion for the first time in 18 years. So that was a big going away present for me. I grew up watching soccer, never played it, but watched it a lot. Favorite team, Feyenoord Rotterdam. Favorite player all time is Robin van Persie. Who obviously also played for Arsenal, where he went to after Feyenoord. That's one side. The other side, business-wise, I got the opportunity to work with a distributor from FITLIGHT that was actually based in Eindhoven, the Netherlands. So I got more familiar with the product. I was in sales in the Netherlands in the financial industry. Love technology, love sports in general, also a lot of other sports besides soccer. And then there was a job opportunity because we're opening up the US office in Miami. It's a Canadian-based company. And I put one and one together. Didn't have anything to lose other than my friends and family. So I thought, let's do it, take the chance. And that's over 3 years ago.
No, that's amazing. So talk about the development, because you came from, the Dutch system, Holland. They're all about development. FITLIGHT, it seems like this is a game changer when it comes to helping develop talent, especially on the tactical side for soccer.
Correct. But it's interesting to see how the US, for example, is way ahead when it comes to technology in sports compared to the Netherlands. Even though the Netherlands is big in development, like you said, a lot of research is being done in the Netherlands. But money-wise, money in sports, Netherlands is far, far, far behind. Obviously, back in the days, we were great in soccer. We still are because we still develop great players and send them throughout the world. But unfortunately, the Dutch league has become less and less attractive for players to play at or play in because there's barely any money to be made. We're a small country, 17 million people living there. Obviously, less people even watch it, so it's not attractive for companies to invest in, and therefore, because there's not that much money to be made at an early age, you see that players leave the Netherlands to be signed for the big teams in the big leagues throughout Europe. So that's a shame. When it comes to technology, I think the US is way ahead of the Netherlands in terms of adapting technology to get data from the game or from game situations. And that is something that the Netherlands can still learn.
No, that's really cool because, as a professional soccer player, I'm always arguing about the eye test versus analytics. and how you sort of mesh the two is going to be important for the development not only of young kids in America but globally as well. So specifically with FitLight, talk about how you guys are implementing it with the teams that you guys work with today.
So knowing that FitLight Trainer is lights and a tablet, and with the tablet you can program the lights any way you want, any color, any time. You can hit the lights, you can pass by a light, so it's motion sensor based and impact sensor based. Knowing that, towards soccer, if you have 4 lights in each corner or 1 light in each corner of a goal, when the light goes on, you need to kick the ball against that light. So you use it as a target, easy to understand. Now you have a light, let's say in the middle circle, you run past that light, and now one of those 4 lights is being triggered. So you can program the lights to do multiple things sequentially. You can also use the lights to just run past them to measure your time, your speed. So it's a split time test. You do a 40-yard dash, put 1 light on each 10 yards, you get your time on each 10 yards. Now, let's say you're my coach, you pass the ball to me. I have 1 light on my left side, I have 1 light on my right side. Very easy. Whenever a light goes on, I deactivate it with my hand. And in the meantime, I'm passing the ball back to you. Now, when the light is red, I need to use my right hand. When the light is green, I need to use my left hand. The red color could be on my left side, so I have to flip over. So now I have to think, and I'm adding all these cognitive tasks to an existing workout, passing the ball back and forth, which is very easy. I'm adding all these cognitive tasks to an existing workout. So I'm able to process all the different information that I'm getting from the lights, from my coach, faster than I used to. So in a game where you have your teammates, where you have the opponents, where you have your coach, the fans, whatnot, all these stimuli that you're getting, if you're able to process that information faster than your opponent, then you're able to think faster, move faster, and therefore be proactive. If you take that back to the Dutch soccer, like the modern day total football, obviously if you're proactive, if you know where the ball is going to be, if you know where you need to be when your teammate has the ball, because it's obviously it's always important to know what to do with the ball, but it's just as important to know what to do without the ball.
No, that's a great explanation, and just thinking of it makes me want to like test it out because, as a center midfielder, this is all you need to do. Like it's all about reaction time. It's all about understanding awareness. It's not like football or basketball where you can set up a timeout and come out with the play. You need to be thinking on the dot, on the spot, reaction, creating space, all in a second's notice. So if you think
45 minutes long.
Exactly. If you think about some of the best center midfielders or players for that matter, Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, these players that are able to like look at a situation while the ball's coming and react. I understand why this product would be beneficial for many athletes, specifically in soccer.
I remember a game, my team Feyenoord played the European Super Cup after they won the UEFA Cup against Real Madrid. And it was the Real Madrid of Zidane as a player, Roberto Carlos. And pretty fast I saw that we're not going to win that game. So I just sat back, enjoyed Monaco, and I just was watching Zinedine Zidane on the midfield without the ball. So Feyenoord would have the ball. The only thing he would do is take 1 step to the left. They couldn't pass the ball that way. Take 2 steps to the right. They couldn't pass the ball that way. He was doing so little, and the outcome was huge for the game. It was unbelievable to see how smart a player can be, and that is really what makes a difference.
No, so obviously this year has been crazy. Can you talk about how FitLight has helped teams during this COVID-19 pandemic? Because with a product like this, and as sports tech products and technology continues to advance, soccer teams are using these models, these products to help enhance the player. You're seeing Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, after logging thousands of miles over the course of their careers on their bodies, using sort of products like these to help them, perform at a higher level um, while they get older. So, can you talk about how you've helped the teams that you guys work with during this time?
Yes, so it was interesting for us to see. Obviously, we've never encountered anything like this. First, it was very quiet, I think the first 2 weeks of March. And then people started to come up with creative ideas on how to um, work in this new normal, this new situation. So we've found a way to uh, um, downsize our system. Our system comes anywhere between a 4 and a 24 light system, which the amount of lights. So we were able to downsize the system in terms of hardware. So not a case, but with a smaller bag. So it was less money. And then we would sell maybe 10 or 20 systems to one team. And then their strength and conditioning coach or their physical therapist would sit at home with all the players sitting at home, wherever. He would come up like we're doing now with a video call. He would come up with certain exercises, and the players would replicate them at home and then either show the data or they would share one account so the strength and conditioning coach can just log in online and watch in his own dashboard what his players are doing. So it's more so it's not that the players stayed physically trained, but it was more to keep their minds trained and busy to fight that fatigue that you get from sitting at home all day.
No, that's really important. And like from your standpoint, soccer, there's many different ways to play. The Dutch system is 4-3-3. You have, Spanish system, total football, which, stemmed from one of the greats, Johan Cruyff. You got South American style, you got African style. There's all these different styles of play. In your opinion, working with FITLIGHT, where do you see FITLIGHT coming into play from the standpoint of different styles of play, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it does. It's interesting. Our system is so versatile that you can use it on the pitch to replicate game situations, to let's say a wide drill, which is very common in American football, but also in football, it's your typical agility drill as you run towards a certain point, a light, or once you pass that one light, there's one light in the far back and in the far left and one in the far right. And whatever light goes on, you have to change
Mm-hmm.
direction and run towards. And then while you're running towards that light, another light can go on, so you have to change your direction again. That's easy to understand for people. But for example, if you're a defender, it's maybe not as important to do that specific drill as it is more important to focus on in front of you when a player comes towards you and you have to actually tackle or defend the ball. Um, 2 or 3 days ago, I think, voted best defender in Italy, Stefan de Vrij, from my team for Feyenoord. So I'm very proud of that. But he's a big advocate for our system. He's one of the fastest in footwork in terms of agility. He just puts lights in front of him, 5 lights, and he constantly deactivates the lights just by kicking over them. And that gives him the ability to change very quickly, not in a big space, but in a small space to react to if an attacker comes towards you with the ball.
No, thank you so much, because I feel like if I was a coach, something like this product, and there's many different products, if I wanted to do like a pressing system, I would set up lights all around the field and make sure, all right, do we do when the left back has it versus what do we do with the right back? And when do we press? How do we press? I think as you incorporate, products like FITLIGHT, it makes it easier than, just having cones on the field or just having dummies. And I think it's really important that you have that kind of gamification, because at the end of the day, it's all about what you do in the game.
Correct. And as a coach, let's say you would only work with one light and you have the light somewhere on your training pitch, and whatever, if it's red, you're going to press. If it's green, you're going to defend. Really, whatever task you give to certain colors, you can tell the players to execute that and see if they still remember what the different tasks are with the different colors.
No, that's what it's all about. So thank you so much for sharing, what you got going on with FitLight. Where do you see it moving forward? Sports tech is here to stay. It's only going to continue to grow. You guys are expanding in the US market. You guys got a lot of cool things coming up. What's the vision?
I think for as far it's not already, and that's a big advantage here in the US. Every big sports team has a vision trainer. It's all about cognitive training. It's all about training your brain. In the end, with how many people live here, 360 million, in the end, you'll always be able to come up with 11 or 22 or 50 great players in whatever sport you're doing. But if you're not as physically as able to play a certain sport, but if you're mentally able to, then you'll always have an advantage. It's the same in basketball. Not always the biggest players are the best players, even if your height gives you an advantage. The same in soccer, and more in soccer. The more clever you are, the better player you are. And it doesn't mean that it will take away from putting in that hard work every single day, because that's something you'll always have to do. And all the athletes already do. But now, return to play, concussion rehab, if you're injured, keep your brain active, or even right before you go onto the pitch, work with the lights for 30 seconds, you get your brain going, and you feel that energy entering your body.
No, that's
So,
great.
but to answer your question, sorry, the future, I think, is vision training, and also in combination with a lot of virtual reality. I think the goggles will come up, or will introduce a whole new level of brain training.
No, that's what it's all about. And I've already seen a lot of iterations, specifically in baseball and football, with like stimulations and simulation training. And with FitLight on the soccer field, I think it's only going to continue to grow. You touched on a great point, though. The battle between mental training and physical training. I know El can attest to this. One of the biggest things that happens in American soccer is like, what if our best athletes played soccer? Like, where would it all go? How does FitLight kind of combat that notion? And where do you see that, specifically coming from Holland, where, you don't have players that are, football players or basketball players competing with soccer?
I'm not sure if I understand what you're asking.
Okay, so essentially, sorry, I get on tangents sometimes. So essentially, in America, like one of the biggest things is, if our best athletes played soccer, we would win the World Cup, because we have
Like
football.
LeBron or
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So we
Okay.
have basketball, we have football, we have baseball. If we had those top guys like LeBron, um, Tom Brady, name some, just all these athletes Dwayne Wade, all these athletes, if they play soccer, then United States soccer team would win everything. Do you believe that to be true?
First of all, I'd love to see it. A guy that's how tall is LeBron? Is he 7? I don't
like
know.
6'8".
I'd love to see that. I don't think so. I think soccer is a sport on its own. You see a lot of basketball players that are good, for example, at baseball. I think I see the similarities maybe with American football, but with soccer, it's such a different sport in terms of positioning wise. Obviously, there's constant plays. It never really stops. Other than now with the MLS is back tournament with some drinking breaks. So I think that the type of athlete that's needed for soccer is a completely different athlete than the physical athletes in, for example, football, American football, or basketball.
Thank you. Yeah, because I battle with everybody on that question. I think it's a hard question to answer, because obviously, it's completely different sports. I do know that a lot of athletes that have excelled in other sports credit playing soccer in their youth years, like because the footwork and stamina and ability to, just understand their body control has helped them in other sports. But thank you so much. We really appreciate you sharing more about FitLight. We're definitely going to have, your information regarding the product and how people can find more about it. But with that being said, Elle, let's take us to the next topics.
Yeah, so let's switch gears a little bit and get into some fun stuff, right? Some rapid fire questions for you. So you mentioned Robin Van Persie as being your favorite player. So who's your favorite player of all time? Would it be him or would it be somebody else?
I would say Maradona.
Oh, okay. Respect.
It's even though after his active career, even while during his active career, he kind of sidetracked to being a different athlete, but what he did to the game, and looking at Messi now, obviously Ronaldo, there's only one Maradona. In his time, he was. It's like what. Even though LeBron is my favorite basketball player, it's like what Jordan did to basketball is what Maradona did to soccer, I think. And some people will argue that it's Pele, but for me, it's Maradona.
Respect. His documentary on HBO was amazing, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So kind of staying in that vein, with you being from the Netherlands, what will your top 11 all-time Dutch players be? So like you had to put a team together of the all-time greatest Dutch players in your opinion. What would your 11 be?
And not players that played in the Netherlands, but Dutch players.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Van Persie would be in there for sure. Willem van Hanegem. I'm sure you like it, El. Dennis Bergkamp, for sure.
Yep.
Paul Bosveld. He might not be very famous, but he was a midfielder that was relentless, like a steam train, as we would say, just going. Johan Cruyff, obviously, he changed the game for the Netherlands. As a coach, it would be Dick Advocaat. I don't know if you guys know him. He's actually the current coach of Feyenoord. He's done a great lot for the national for the Dutch soccer in general. Wow, that's a good question.
You're giving us a Dutch masterclass on players.
Oh wow! So let me think. Koen Merlijn over Kindval. Koen Merlijn. He won the first European One Cup for the Netherlands for Feyenoord. They really changed the game. It would be Giovanni van Bronckhorst, also Arsenal play and Feyenoord legend. It would be Frank de Boer, Ajax legend. Unfortunately, as a coach, failed miserably after he left Ajax, even though he won, I think, the titles 5 or 6 times in a row with Ajax. After that, he failed miserably.
I'm an Atlanta United fan as well, so I'm familiar with him.
And it's a shame. He really has a great vision, but he's so focused on his vision that he's not focused on the human part of soccer, I think. Or as a coach, maybe Guus Hiddink, who did great things with obviously Chelsea, with the Korean team, with Russia, with Australia, and the Dutch team. Those are some great players.
Robin make your team?
No Van Basten?
Oh, yeah, Van Basten, Rijkaard, Gullit, for sure. For sure.
About Iron Robin?
I've never been a fan.
Oh.
Two things. They don't call him the die for nothing. It's one. I mean, yeah, he's made out of fragile glass, I think, and he should have scored against Spain in the World Cup final in South Africa, and then the Netherlands would have won their first World Cup in history, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And in the end, that's the only thing that that lingers.
What about some of the new school guys? How do you feel about like Virgil van Dijk,
Van Dijk. Why not? Well, two players, great players. I'm surprised how much Wijnaldum grew after he left the Netherlands. He became a total player, like and a leader in the field. Also, on and off the pitch, he became a leader, even though he was still young. And Van Dijk, wow, yeah, you cannot pass him. I think the championship for Liverpool is a great deal because of those two players for sure, and obviously Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good Dutch players out there. You have you guys from Ajax who came over. Was it De Ligt and
De Ligt,
Frankie De Jong? Yeah.
De Ligt is interesting to see that in the beginning he didn't do that well in at Juventus, but now nobody is able to pass him, and as a defender, he's very good.
Yeah, we have to settle in a little bit.
Yeah,
so who do you think's a better center midfielder? Would it be Van der Vaart or Schneider?
Schneider.
Okay, why? Because I know they were battling all throughout their careers, so I wanted to ask.
I think Schneider is a more complete player.
Okay.
They're both very, very good. Obviously, they both had great careers, but I think Schneider is more of a complete player and more. And maybe the stats will correct me, but I think he scored also more goals than Van der Vaart.
Okay, I like that.
I'll have to look that up.
So you mentioned, I think this is offline, that you guys are working with Inter Miami out here. So speaking of MLS as a league, who do you think are some of like top Dutch players in the MLS? Or do you know of any?
Not that many. I know Leerdam won last year with Seattle. So the thing is, I whenever a player goes to the MLS from the Netherlands, it's not to take the next step. It's usually a step back, with all due respect. So I'm more interested to see what the Dutch coaches are doing in the MLS than the players. Now we still have Jaap Stam with Cincinnati, who came from Feyenoord to Cincinnati, actually. I'm very curious to see how he's going to do. Not that positive. I thought Frank de Boer would have done better with Atlanta. Unfortunately not.
Interesting.
Okay.
So can I return the question? Do you guys have a favorite Dutch player in the MLS? Or in general, who's your favorite Dutch player ever?
Ever?
That's a good question.
Well, my soccer lineage doesn't go back as far as maybe Amobi's. I got into the game around 2012, so my guys would be probably a little more new school. I'm gonna have to say Van Dijk, because he's probably the one that I'm most familiar with. Like watching their playing career or getting a more up close view of their playing career. So I'm gonna go with Van Dijk.
All right.
Yeah. So for me, I got a whole bunch of players like Edgar Davids, Van Basten, Patrick Kluivert, and only because I play like Nintendo World Cup '98. So these are like some of the players that came up. But like more new school, Van Persie, like he was so cold. I'm a Chelsea fan, so I had to follow Robin.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and then Van Bronckhorst, just because like he was like one of the most humble, most consistent players. You know, you can always count on him. So I liked his game a lot.
But that's interesting because if you look at somebody like Van Bronckhorst, if you look at him, you don't think he's this top athlete.
No,
However, apparently he was so clever in the game that, well, it goes without saying that he's a legend.
yeah, it's like that battle. You know, you said a physicality or mental capacity. You know, being able to mesh the two, or using one over the other to compensate for your faults. It's really amazing.
If you look at Ronaldo and Messi, I know it's not a comparison because you can't, and they're both exquisite. But if you look at how physical Ronaldo is, and like with the famous jump he made, what was it, last season or the season before, where with the header he literally, I think he jumped as high as LeBron could. It's unbelievable that somebody can train that much. That as a regular size player, you can create that for yourself. That's
No,
Yeah. So speaking of Van Persie and Robin and Arsenal and Chelsea, this past weekend, we had the FA Cup final, Arsenal versus Chelsea. With my team, Arsenal defeating them 2-1. I predicted correctly. That score. So, and also looks like there's another double agent headed our way in Willian. So first it was Agent Louise.
Peter Cech.
Louise, yeah, Petr Cech, and now looks like Williams headed over on a reported 3-year deal for $100K a week. And it's basically what Inter Miami offered him, and he rejected. And so there's a question about that. So Williams mentioned that he would be interested in playing in MLS, but he wants to wait till he's 35, 36 versus coming over now when what is he, like 31?
Yeah, he's 31 right now.
So it seems like there's still a skewed idea of the MLS being like a retirement league per se, although the league is changing and they're focusing more on developing players and selling them off. So do you think that was a good idea for Willian to kind of reject the Miami deal in terms of like trying to stick around Europe a little bit longer? And do you think he would have opportunity here in the MLS after this reported Arsenal contract is up?
Yes, I think it's good for him that he stays in Europe. As much as I would love to see great players come to the MLS and to Inter Miami specifically, because from the moment they announced that they were going to start in the MLS, I decided to pick Inter Miami as my new American soccer team. Obviously, it's a shame what happened, and I think they didn't get a fair chance to start because COVID hit, and they're not really a team. And especially in soccer, you really need to be a team, especially if you're talking about total football. Obviously, to go back to your question, I get it that players, I think, from Europe decide to play in MLS if they're going to retire here, or if the city where they're going to play offer money. But I think money is you can make a lot of money still in Europe, even if you're not one of the best players.
That's true.
So if the situation where you're going to live, like anybody in Europe would want to live, for example, in Miami. But if you're going to live in Seattle, where it rains 75% of the year, the financial side of it needs to be good. And it's always it's the same with, as a Dutch player, if you're 16 and Chelsea comes and offers you a contract and offers your dad a contract to work, and all of a sudden you're able to make millions, you have to be very strong to say no. And I think it's the same for the same goes the other way around. A team here in the MLS needs to offer a lot of money, for a player to say, okay, I'll come and set my sport goals from the competitive side of the story aside. Because in the end, if you're a true athlete, you also want to play the sport that you do. So if you're a good soccer player, you want to get better. And where do you get better? At this moment, still in Europe.
Yeah, so I got a follow-up question to that, because you came from Europe. So what's the viewership like? Are games on TV? MLS games. Are you guys seeing media cover soccer in the States?
Yes, however, because of the time difference, it's almost impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's, for example, I'm in Miami, Eastern time, with the Netherlands, is 6 hour time difference. So if a game here, like tonight, the game is at what, 8:30, 6 hours ahead is the Netherlands. So it's almost impossible to watch a game live.
Okay.
Me personally, I don't like watching games when it's not live. I don't sit down and watch a game on a recap. But what on the weekend, sometimes people would do it if it's a day game. So yes, it is broadcasted. Yes, it's getting more popular, and that's why it's also good that, for example, David Beckham is involved here in the MLS, because obviously he has a great stature all over the world. That people like Ibrahimovic go to Los Angeles Galaxy, Wayne Rooney to DC United, Schweinsteiger, because those are all names that Europeans will look at, and the Dutch coaches. So it's getting there. It's way better than it was 5 years ago, for sure, but there's still a long way to go.
Okay.
So to that
And
point,
and sorry, there's one more thing that I would like to add, and that's also personally a big difference compared to Europe. Is sports in general in the US it's all about entertainment. Also outside the game, the fans, everything is about being entertained. So in Europe, you might watch a game where it's raining, where the stadium looks terrible, but you feel that it's more about the game than it's about the entertainment, about the money being made.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that it's changing in the MLS. I feel that the fans are becoming more passionate and more really soccer fans, as opposed to just sports fans. And that would be a good thing too.
No, that makes sense.
So one thing I was going to ask is, you mentioned some of the appeal of like a European player coming over here to play. I remember, I think it was a year or so ago, Lukaku did an interview saying that a lot more players would come over in their prime if there was no salary cap on the league. Do you believe something like that to be true? Like, is there like enough appeal to America for like some of these players to come over like in their 20s or like mid 20s, like their prime years, if there was no salary cap on the MLS league?
In the end, for a lot of people, and it's sports and it's outside sports, money is a big motivator. A lot of transfers also in Europe have been made just for the sake of money. Why would you go to China in the prime of your career? Well, if you can make 25 million a year, then it makes sense. If you're a mediocre player and within 1 year you can make sure that you and your entire family is financially secured for the rest of their lives, why would you say no?
Yeah, see you
exactly.
later.
And there's always a possibility that if you stay in Europe and in 2 games your knee gets hit, you're out for the rest of your life, and you can't play soccer on a high level anymore. Then what? And that's a big difference between the US and for example, the Netherlands too. In the Netherlands, all the big teams, they focus on, from the youth academy on, all the players need to get their degree. And without a degree, they're not allowed to play in the first team. Because God forbid something happens, then you always can fall back to the studied or the things you learn in school, so you are at least able to get a regular job.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's very smart.
And when here in the MLS, you can't relegate, for example. So that's also, I feel, a thing for soccer players, that the motivation might be less if towards the end of the season you're not going to make it anymore. Then doesn't really matter, because next season will be in the
Try
same
again
league.
next year. Yeah. We can go on a whole different discussion on pro relegation. You know, there's a lot of people that go back and forth on the benefits and the cons about that, especially stateside.
I agree.
Definitely. So I know we got off on a little tangent. So let's circle back to the FA Cup a little bit. I know Amobi, you had some comments you wanted to make about the game. So.
Well, I know Rob didn't watch all of the game, but these refs, Kovacic, the replay showed that he actually got stepped on, and for some reason Arsenal was able to go away free, and we were a man down. It's cool, you know. Arsenal's FA Cup champions once again. We'll give you guys your due. Now you guys have qualified for Europa League, I believe, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's about time we got some calls going our way. So, but like, I'll be real with you. After Pulisic scored that first goal, I was a little shook. I thought it was gonna be a long day, but
he would have scored that second if he didn't get his hamstring pull. If he didn't pull his hamstring.
Yeah, so hate to see him go down, but I think that definitely kind of helped swing the momentum for us a little bit. Like, I think we really needed this with the season we had. We had 3 coaches this year. It seems like the year has been so long because of the COVID stop.
Yeah.
But people don't realize, like, we had 3 managers.
Yeah, that's wild. I forgot about. Yeah, I forgot.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Arteta just joined recently, so.
So you guys gonna give him the bag? Are you guys gonna give him the bag to spend this summer or what?
I think Arsenal's gonna invest a lot of money.
Let's hope.
I hope so. Hopefully we can move out some of the dead weight and, you know, free up some money so that we can, like, get the people that we need. Like, we're already talking about getting Willian. I hear we're in for the center back. I forget his name. Gabriel, who plays for Lille. I hear we're in for him. Thomas Partey is still on the table. We're still trying to play around with him. Coutinho might be on the table still. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Rob, I got a question for you. Chelsea, Arsenal. If you were to use FITLIGHT with them, which club are you choosing?
Chelsea, because they're actually using our lights.
Oh, okay. Smart decision. Smart decision.
No, I think Arsenal uses our lights too, but in general, I've always been more attracted to Chelsea than to Arsenal.
Smart decision, you know.
Yeah. Moving on. Now it's time to get into one of our favorite games on the show. No card, yellow card, red card. This is kind of a rapid fire segment of the show where we throw out a topic and we get our guests and Amobi's opinion, and they rate their opinion based on, you know, the soccer card system. So no card means I agree with it, I'm okay with it. Yellow card means it's a foul, I can go either way, but I'll let it slide. And red card means, of course, I don't agree with it, you know, game over, you're off the field. So jumping right into it, Brazilian midfielder Arthur goes AWOL ahead of his $70 million move to Juventus, cutting out on the remainder of Barcelona's Champions League campaign. So what do you guys think about that?
Red card.
How would you rate that?
Red card, Rob? Yeah. You want to go in further to explain?
I think as a professional, you shouldn't.
Yeah, respect. For me, I go yellow card. You know, Barcelona, they promised him a lot of things. I don't want to say promised, but they fought to get him, you know, from Brazil. They didn't really give him a fair shake during the season. And then they gave him the short end of the stick. So he wants to go to Juventus, not risk any injury, you know, make sure he's healthy. Amongst other reasons, he probably wants to stick it to him as well. Yeah, I'll give him a yellow card. Like he didn't have to do it, but I'm not gonna be mad at him for doing it. You know.
That's actually very well explained. So I might go towards a yellow now.
As a player, you got to protect yourself too, because these
you're right.
Yeah, he can't move over. He can't move over to Juventus until September 1st, I believe. So he has a whole month. Either you don't play or you play and risk getting injured. So I would say yellow card on that as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
All right. Next one. Premier League club, no card, yellow card, red card. Premier League clubs reject allowing 5 substitutions next season.
For me, I'll go no card. I think is good. Get it back to how it was. I think now that I don't want to say COVID is over, but now the routine of how the games are going to go, they're going to get back on a better schedule. I think it's good. Yeah, get it back to how it was.
I'd go for yellow. I agree with you. However, I'm always in favor to try new things, and there are definitely some positive sides to having 5 substitutions. It's changing the game. Not everybody likes that, but it might be a good thing to try. If things are really going back to normal, no COVID whatsoever, then okay, fine. But who knows? Maybe it turns out to be a great incentive for the sport.
That's true. That's good.
Yeah, and I think the majority ruled against it because it would allow some of the bigger teams to have more of an advantage. So since they have better depth, they can bring on better depth players and really take over a game. So I think that was another reason why they just wanted to go back to the regular.
I see. Yeah, it's going to be interesting as long as they're not doing timeouts. So
water breaks.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about the technology in terms of the VAR and goal line technology? The modernization of football.
Goal line technology. I don't know why they don't just have like a radar and once it crosses the line, like hockey, just have it buzzer. Yeah, we don't need to go to the camera. We don't need to spend 5 minutes. I'm like a conspiracy theorist, so I just think it's all a ploy to start incorporating commercials. They do VAR, different situations. I think that's what it is. Goal line technology could easily get solved if you just do the hockey model. VAR, you have 5 refs on the field, and then you got the people in the booth. They can get it. They have headsets. Get it right on immediately. I don't like the stops, to be honest. So I love that they're trying to make it better in terms of getting the right calls, but that's the beauty of soccer. It's like the flow of the game.
But if there's millions involved,
yeah, exactly. So we'll see. We'll see. That's a great question.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of, since I'm a designer by trade, so I'm more of a fan of the in-game presentation and experience. So I tend to pay attention to that a lot. So what the MLS did with the MLS's back cup, in the way that they kind of created a home away atmosphere with the digitally imposed advertising and stuff like that. So allowing local advertisers to still kind of get a return on their investment while the teams aren't playing in their home markets. I thought that was pretty clever. The Adidas logo in the middle of the field was a little distracting, but I do maybe superimposing stats and things like that dynamically throughout the game. I think that could be cool. But yeah, from a technology standpoint, VAR, it can be better. I have mixed feelings about it because it hasn't gone our way all that often. But it is what it's still opinion at the end of the day. we as fans, we want to give our team the best advantage possible. So even if like his toe was slightly offsides, like we don't know how much of an advantage that gives him. Why would you call that goal back?
That's true. If VAR was around, Spain might have won a little bit easier in 2010 World Cup after that tackle. So
you mean De Jong? Wow,
yeah.
that was. If I see that now, it's a miracle that guy was still standing. It's
unbelievable. Well, Rob, we want to thank you so much for taking time to join us on the podcast. For the audience, like, where can they find you if they want to get connected with you?
www.fitlighttraining.com for FITLIGHT. I'm on LinkedIn, obviously, Rob Bouw.
Thank you so much. And that's it for another episode of 2 Cents FC. Subscribe, rate, and review. It helps us get discovered. Follow us on the socials at 2CentsFC. Check us out, our merch shop, 2centssports.shop. It helps support the show. Episode 10, we loving every week of it. Tweet us your comments on the show and any topics you want me and El to discuss. And once again, thank you, Rob, and thank you to our lovely fans that follow the channel.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. That was fun.